Welcome back to another Giant Slayer TV video. It's time for another Meta Monday, and this time it's brought to you by our challenger analyst, Faye. This patch has been quite interesting over the past couple of weeks, and we still have a few days left. So today we just wanted to touch on one part of the meta, that part being Lux. So far in Set 2, Lux has been rather lackluster and mostly played purely for her synergies and limited ones at that. That has changed recently with a few balance changes to her and the meta opening up the possibility of playing her, so let's get into why and how. But before we begin, please don't forget to click the links in our description. We host many TFT tournaments with plenty of exciting news to come. The interest form is down below, so feel free to fill that out if you'd like to compete. Please be sure to also follow Giant Slayer TV social medias and check out our amazing cast in the description. So we posed the question, why Lux? Well, in the 9.24 patch, she was buffed. Her total mana was decreased from 85 to 80, and her damage was increased from 500 800 to 600 900. She also received buffs in previous patches, but these were the ones that helped her become a more viable late-game carry. While she is still primarily played for certain trait bonuses like Electric or Steel, the fact that she can be played as a damage-dealing carry late-game opens up a lot of interesting pivots. There are a few reasons why Lux is worth pivoting into in the late game. One of those being when you don't have a Nami or an Amumu, but you find a Lux. Playing her with carry items is a great way to stabilize your composition. Another reason is depending on the type of Lux, you can entirely alter your composition around it, such as finding a Crystal Lux and going 4 crystals as your pivot. The versatility she provides by being 2 of a trait was the main reason that you'd play her in previous patches, but that still remains in this one as well. The fact that she's so easily splashed into many compositions makes her a great pickup late game. Lastly, she just does good damage. While she can be unreliable, if positioned correctly with the right items, she can absolutely decimate enemy units. With the mana change, she can also get her ultimate off more often, netting higher DPS output than in previous patches. Frankly, she can slap really hard. Now, we're going to talk about each elemental Lux and the scenarios you may play them in. First up is the most popular Lux to play due to the Blender comp, and that's Steel Lux. This Lux is one of the most commonly played in past patches due to the Steel synergy being quite strong. In the current meta, it's mostly known for being played in Blender builds, though you can play her outside of that. Giving herself a baseline 2 seconds of invulnerability even with no other Steel units makes her one of the safest Luxes to play as your carry. Essentially, you play her for 3 or 4 Steel once you're level 7 or 8. A few variations are just playing 3 Steel and taking out Rek'Sai at level 8 and playing Mystic for Yi and Janna, and then playing a 4th Steel at level 9. Seeing as most Blender games don't really go past level 8, we suggest scouting the lobby and seeing how much value Mystic will give you. Also, if you hit Nocturne 3, then playing 4 Steel is very valuable. One of the more interesting plays you can do with Steel Lux is actually placing her in the front as one of your frontliners. Because of the death immunity Steel provides, she will live long enough to buy you time for the rest of your team. Add in 1 or 2 more Steel units, and that time alive in the front line goes up significantly. We recommend mostly doing this in Blender builds, but it is viable to do if you need a decent frontline and aren't using her as your main or secondary carry. Next up is another popular Lux, Electric. She was mostly played at the start of 9.24 when Electric was buffed, though she was always seen as a strong win condition in prior patches because of the strength of 4 Electric. That remains true in the current meta, although pivoting into 4 Electric isn't as easy. The 2 most popular compositions you see her in are Berserker Electric, where you play her for 4 Electric, or in a late game Warden style composition that you play Zed and her in. Here are 2 example compositions you may see her in. 6 Berserker 4 Electric is a variation of the Berserker's build that ends with 4 Electric if you can find the Lux. There's many variations of this composition, and you can drop several things to mix and match it how you wish, but a basic variation is the one above. 4 Electric is still incredibly powerful, so the extra damage it provides can be enough to carry you into the late game. Stacking Zed when you have 4 Electric is preferable, so look for items like Redemption or Dragon's Claw if possible, otherwise giving him items for stats is just fine. This is a Warden Mystic Electric composition that you may end up with if you find an Electric Lux and want to pivot into it. It's not that standard, but it's a way to play 4 Electric if you find the Lux and the Zed. Nami and Amumu are the 2 most commonly played late game units, so building around them is normal. This pivot is just to add in a few extra electrics to be your main damage. Positioning Electric Lux depends on what you're against and whether you're running more than just her for the electric buff. If you have 4 Electric and play her in a corner, any assassin that jumps to her is going to take a lot of damage from the trait. She can be given carry items, but generally Zed is preferable since he will make use of the trait better than Lux will. Now on to Shadow Lux. Possibly the one Lux that can carry the most, Shadow Lux can do a ton of damage if you pair her with another Shadow. In previous patches, she was slightly better on her own as the Shadow trait was a 2 and 4 piece, but even requiring the extra unit, she is still valuable to pivot to in the late game just from the sheer amount of damage she can do. One of the more basic builds you can pivot to play her in is 6 Shadow. There are a lot of ways you can pivot into 6 Shadow. This is just one possible variation. Playing 3 Shadow is also perfectly viable if you don't want to fully commit to Shadow, so playing a Kindred or Master Yi as the 3rd unit can work as well. If you find a Shadow Lux, we suggest committing carry items to her such as Death Cap, Seraph's Embrace, or Jeweled Gauntlet, because she will kill off units effectively and quickly, especially with 6 Shadows, as she starts off with 140% increased damage. Our personal favorite Lux is up next, and that's Crystal. Crystal is an interesting trait for Lux because it can help alleviate one of her main issues, which is being really squishy against assassins. Even just the 2 part of the trait can be enough to keep her alive long enough against a Zed or a Nocturne for her ult to go off once or twice. First though, let's give an example of a composition you may pivot into when you find a Crystal Lux. 4 Warden, 4 Crystal, 2 Mystic, 2 Ocean is a really fun way to utilize Crystal Lux and pivot into her. Again, it's another variation playing around a Mumu Nami combo that's very popular in the current meta, but even without those 2, the basics of this composition is pivoting around Crystal to play Ashe, Taric, or Skarner with the Lux and get the 4 Crystal bonus. Lux definitely wants at least a Seraph's or a Shojin and a Death Cap or Jeweled Gauntlet to increase her overall damage output, since a composition using 4 crystals is light on damage. Because Crystal provides a lot of tankiness to Lux, you can easily place her in the corner and she won't get instantly killed by assassins. Due to this positioning though, you can look to give her defensive items like Phantom Dancer, Guardian Angel, or even Quicksilver. Make sure it's only 1 defensive item if she's your main carry, as she'll be your main source of damage and needs at least 2 offensive items. Next up is Infernal Lux, which is great because of how well she pairs with the current meta. It's likely you're going to want to play in a Mumu in your composition in the late game, and just these 2 units alone gives you 3 Inferno. Alongside other meta units like Annie and Kiana, on the Inferno map of course, it's incredibly easy to slot in 3 Infernos with this Lux. This also enables you to go 6 Inferno, which should look something like this. 6 Inferno, 4 Warden, 2 Ocean is one of the many variations that you can play with 6 Inferno in the late game. Defensive items work well in this composition since the damage mainly comes from your Inferno buff, so items like Locket on your backline or Dragon's Claw, Phantom Dancer, and Guardian Angel go onto your Mumu. Infernal Lux is great at letting 6 Inferno be flexed in, and as mentioned earlier, it pairs so well with a lot of current meta champions. You can be playing a Zyra carry early mid-game and pivot your composition if you find an Infernal Lux and simply pass the items from Zyra onto Lux. Generally those items are going to be a Seraph's and Morellonomicon, and then piece your build around her. Compositions built around Inferno often use Lockets as a defensive item for the backline, so you can itemize your Lux with those. Ideal positioning is having the Lux in the corner, but this type of Lux is relatively squishy, so keeping her in the mid-back position is preferable, especially if you're giving her Locket. That said, always scout to see how many assassins there are and adjust accordingly. Next up is Ocean. This Lux was amazing a few patches ago when Ocean Mage was dominant in the meta, as you could easily get 6 Ocean when you played her. While Ocean Mage isn't super dominant now, Ocean is still very popular with units like Nautilus, Thresh, and Nami. This Lux makes it really easy for you to have 4 Ocean or even 6 Ocean without committing to weaker units like Syndra or Vladimir. She's also great on the Ocean map since you can play Kiana for an easy 6-piece Ocean. Onto the basic composition you may see Ocean Lux in. 4 Warden, 6 Ocean, 3 Mage is not exactly common, but it is one of the many possible variants to play Lux in. Again, Nami and Amumu are the 2 most popular late game units currently, so you're likely to play a variation of this composition using both. Ocean Lux is one of the Luxes that just fits really well in the current meta, similar to Infernal Lux, due to the pairing with a lot of meta units. 6 Ocean also makes your team CC a lot if you're playing Nami, Amumu, and Malphite. Because she's a support trait, Ocean Lux is generally weak into assassins, so keeping her mid-back is generally the safe play. She will most likely be your secondary carry, so it's not necessary to worry about her damage as she's just there for the trait. Another personal favorite of ours is Cloud Lux. Cloud bonus isn't exactly a catch-all type trait in the way that Mystic tends to be, but it can be useful depending on the game you're in. With Blender being one of the most dominant builds and Berserker compositions also being played, it can be a win condition to find this Lux against those builds and pivot into 4 Cloud. The fact that Cloud is a 2, 3, 4-piece trait means that you can get an easy 3-piece of it just by playing normal with Mystic and having Janna give that extra bonus. Here's what a pivot to Cloud Lux may look like, albeit a more extreme version. 4 Warden, 4 Cloud, 2 Mystic is a really fun composition that's a bit extreme to pivot into from a Cloud Lux. Most likely if you find this Lux in player, you're just going to throw into whatever composition you have and get a juicy 20% dodge bonus for your entire team from just one unit, which is absolutely fantastic. But if you can do it on, let's say, a Cloud map, pivoting into 4 Cloud is actually quite effective. The 35% dodge chance paired with Mystic and 4 Warden is really hard to kill, especially for builds like Blender or Berserker that rely on, hitting units and doing damage. Because this trade-off is defensive, it's easy to keep Lux in the corner. Against heavy assassin teams, give her a Phantom Dancer and she'll live even longer. If she's your secondary carry, you can keep her in the corner anyway, and whatever leftover defensive items you have can go on her. The next one is one of the harder traits to make use of. It's Glacial Lux. Glacial Lux gets you an easy 4 Glacial there, but outside of that, you don't really see a lot of other Glacial units getting played. She's definitely a viable carry, as most Luxes are, but she won't be getting a lot of use out of her trait. We suggest mostly skipping Glacial Lux, except in scenarios when you're running Berserker, such as in this example. 6 Berserker, 4 Glacial, 2 Desert is more than likely the best scenario to use Glacial Lux in. Berserker has a lot of variations, but the basic premise of the composition is 6 Berserkers plus X. X, in this case, is Glacial Lux. If you're able to, you can also go to level 9, take out Kha'Zix, or whatever the extra unit is, and go 6 Glacial. While Berserker is fairly common currently, most of the time you're aiming for Electric to pair with this composition, and you would rather have an Electric Lux, but this variation with 4 Glacial is also viable. In the build above, Lux is literally just there for the trait, so stick her in the corner and put her with the lockets so she's a bit harder to kill, and just forget about her. It's unlikely that you're going to have any extra items to give her, but anything that can buff AP will work. In other builds, she can be made into the standard main carry, so mid-back positioning with items like Seraphs and Deathcap, but as mentioned above, we'd personally skip buying Glacial Lux if you find her in a non-Berserker game. Oh boy, we are going to be grouping the last two together. They are Woodland and Light Lux. While Light Lux can have some very, and I mean very niche scenarios where you'd run her, Woodland Lux is almost never going to be useful. We highly recommend skipping Woodland Lux entirely if you see her in the shop, and only pick up Light Lux if you happen to be running Zed with the light item. Woodland Lux is by far the worst because you get nothing from her trait unless you're running another Woodland, since Lux is a late game unit and Woodland is an early game trait. Yeah, doesn't fit. Light Lux, on the other hand, is semi-viable depending on what you're running. Soraka is common given she's a Mystic, and Yorick is still played quite frequently, so it's not improbable to run a Light Lux with these two units. Zed with a light item, as mentioned, is another scenario you might run Light Lux, though we'd almost always rather have Electric Lux. Basically, for both Woodland and Light Lux, we highly recommend staying away from buying them and look for other types of Lux instead. That's going to be it for our Meta Monday. Thank you for watching. Which Light Lux is your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you on Thursday for the new patch and another tier list video. As always, make sure you check out the links in the description to check out our amazing cast and other videos below. Thanks again for watching another installment of Giant Slayer TV's Meta Monday.